Well, interesting thing with Grusch is, look, he said so during the hearing, right? He said, I can't talk about that. I could talk about it in a skiff, right? In a sensitive, secure environment. All right. Well, if I'm, one of the people on that subcommittee, I'm going to say, you know what, to my staff, schedule, a skiff meeting with Grusch. Get him in here, and let's, have him talk classified shit.
Right.
So that would be the next logical step in all of this.
Have they done that yet?
I don't know. I mean, it's.
When he said I could talk to you about it in a skiff, have people taken him up on that?
Well, you'd have to ask him. No, I wouldn't know.
Right, and they wouldn't tell anybody.
And they wouldn't tell him. And therein lies part of the problem, because if he sits there but if he sits in the skiff and continues to kind of say, well, okay, you guys aren't clear to hear this, and I can't. All right, then you got to start questioning.
Now this really frustrates me because it shows how good the government's disinformation campaign through mainstream media actually makes people like Joe Rogan question themselves. Joe Rogan's usually really good and open-minded with this stuff, but it shows how he's even been watching mainstream media outlets such as CNN and Fox that are controlled by the government, and how it's made his opinion lean more towards the side of that David Grusch isn't telling the truth. And this is the aim of disinformation and propaganda, to influence us. Now here's the truth through a free media outlet called News Nation that actually presents factual information that isn't influenced by American government propaganda.
But we were denied access to a skiff so that we could receive some of that information. Those questions that Grusch was being asked, we actually wanted to talk to him prior, and again, we were denied access to that.
I was told by leadership that it was blocked by the intelligence community, not the intelligence committee, but the intelligence community, and that is a very chilling effect. If someone can reach through the veil of government and pierce it to the point of we do not have access to something, you got to start asking yourself who the hell's in control.
So there you go.
They're being surrounded by friggin' UFOs.
Now, just in the midst of the leaking of Dave Grusch's medical records, which is an obvious leak from the Department of Defense and tactic to ridicule him, it's pretty prevalent they're trying to hide something. And on that note, this is Brandon Fugel. He's a real estate mogul, and he is the owner of Skinwalker Ranch. And you'll see that the government displays a lot of interest in the phenomenon that's happening at that ranch, mostly including UFOs and alien activity and phenomenons that can't be explained. Now, isn't this a bit of a contradiction from the government's stance of we know nothing, we aren't involved in nothing? Why would they be interested in this if they weren't interested in that subject whatsoever? It's a total contradiction of everything they're trying to portray to the mainstream media and the community.
The events, the activity, the investigation at Skinwalker Ranch was brought to the attention of officials at the Pentagon. It was very evident that those individuals who held high levels of position, of seniority, were respectful and took this seriously and had knowledge that these things are real.
Who exactly were you briefing? Was it the Senate Intelligence Committee or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Classic contradiction, but don't worry, the Department of Defense aren't interested at all in UFOs.
The fact that we are using scientific discipline and rigor in order to address these topics and the phenomena at the ranch. Being a collaborative partnership with people who can bring skills and resources to the table to better understand what is happening is a key, a hallmark of our investigation.
And then I listened carefully to David Grusch's testimony and I found a connection. David Grusch right here is talking about one of the jobs he did for the Department of Defense and Senate Intelligence on Skinwalker Ranch, proving more his credibility from another witness without even realizing he's connecting him to this. So it's exposing his connection and his credibility.
In terms of multidimensionality, that kind of thing, the framework that I'm familiar with, for example, is something called the holographic principle. It derives itself from general relativity and quantum mechanics, and that is If you want to imagine a 3D object such as yourself casting a shadow onto a 2D surface, that's the holographic principle. So you can be projected, quasi-projected from higher dimensional space to lower dimensional. It's a scientific trope that you can actually cross.
So imagine that this is what's going on here, that there's something else that's, it's the motility, the functionality is sitting elsewhere. And then what is here is just, like I said, like a projection which is being held at arm's length.
Now, what David Grusch just explained there, I think, is the reason why people are also more scared of the reality of this subject. It's not just that there could be UFOs in our sky, it's that reality as we know it isn't what we see, which people can't open their mind up to start with, just the basics. But what David Grusch is talking about there is stuff that the American government have been scientifically testing and experimenting on for the last so many years. This is what the American government's trying to find out, and other governments around the world, what these phenomenons are and what they mean, and it could lead to many further questions as well. And also, to add to that, I think the whole end game of why disinformation and disclosure is the last thing on the Department of Defense's mind, apart from the illegal activity and stuff like that, I think it is free energy. Free energy lies at the base of this whole phenomenon. People don't realise it's not that the government doesn't want us to know about UFOs or aliens. They don't care about that. The thing the government does not want us to discover is free energy. And why do you think they've killed or silenced every inventor that's ever created any form of free energy or who's got close to forming it in a large scale way? It's because the military-industrial complex, the fuel, the oil industries, they rule our entire economy. These military contractors that are owned by BlackRock, they have power over our governments. This is why free energy technology is lying at the base root of, and this is why the anti-disclosure and disinformation campaign by the DoD and the defense intelligence community is so strong, and there's so much money put into it, and people just don't realize that. They carry on with their everyday life, they watch fake news or the news that's displayed to them, and they think that there's nothing else going on. I'm sorry, people, wake up, open your eyes. This is what it is. They don't want to release the secret, which is free energy. This is why this subject is so hidden and buried. It's the biggest secret ever kept.
Have actually a national security order denial on a patent of one of these devices from an inventor I know. So we're going to prove this is not a conspiracy theory. Here it is from the patent office. So they ain't going to allow it. It gets confiscated. We have a patent examiner who's a PhD physicist testifying that they confiscate these things. In reality, Murder Incorporated beats a path to their door. Okay, or it just gets confiscated.
Here's some inventors that have created free energy technologies. Yes, they are real, and they've all either been killed or their technology has been confiscated by unknown authority.
This is a real effect. It's all coming from that little tiny box. It's putting out all of that power, well over 500 watts, and yet it is receiving less than 1/3 of a milliwatt of input power.
Actually took a device from a Russian immigrant and another and kind of packaged it. He didn't actually understand it that much. And you had 26, almost 27 watts going in, 7,460 watts going out, and tested and verified by multiple labs.
Gray started developing this idea 8 years ago. For the past year and a half, he's been trying to get someone in the U.S. government interested. So far, he's had little luck. Gray says he's been getting the same reaction he got 30 years ago when he first proposed his theory.
Get this guy out of here, he is crazy.
But Gray says it's paranoia. The scientific community isn't willing to accept teachings opposite all previous learning. And the military aerospace industry is afraid to admit decades and billions of dollars worth of research have been wasted.
In 1997, he made tremendous strides in the technology. Before he could develop his first prototype, he fell out of a window. Dr. John Mullen, a nuclear physicist, used to work for McDonnell Douglas, one of the largest military contractors in the world. He died of arsenic poisoning in 2004. His girlfriend was originally a suspect, but she was found dead in her apartment shortly after. There are no more suspects, there is no investigation, there will be no trial. Dmitry Petronov invented a plasma battery that powered his home for 14 months. In 2010, he went to a bakery and was never seen again. Zachary Warfield was another inventor who developed his own plasma battery. Warfield visited Petronov to exchange information. That same year, Warfield died in a strange boating accident in Washington, D.C. Eugene Malov was a physicist and expert in cold fusion. He claimed he had a working prototype of a free energy device. In 2004, the day before he was to make a public announcement about his findings, he was beaten to death. Ari Dagos actually patented free energy technology based on the zero-point field. In 2007, he was about to get on a flight to meet investors who were going to fund his research. He was found dead in his car at the airport.
Now, this is the outdated technology they want us to use and that we do use.
That you're somehow getting energy from the atom directly. No. What you're doing is splitting the atom, as it were, creating a lot of heat that boils water, heats water, it turns a steam engine like a choo-choo train. That's all a nuclear power plant is, except you're stuck with 1 million years of waste. And this is the other problem. The distribution of the power from the point that you have the primary source, by the time you generate it, transmit it through the inefficient transmission lines, and then you're wiring in your device or your home, you've lost at least 66%. So 66% of the energy is completely wasted. So here's your energy grid. 12% is a new renewable. The rest is the old system. So if you plug in your electric car, 88% of the power is coming from gas and oil and coal.